what does Ron Paul want to do to fight the prospect of the North American Union and America?
Right. Well, I think publicizing it is the first thing. Publicizing that it's going on, trying to get the legislature to stop it, through official acts of Congress. Anytime he talks about it, though, the media tries to make fun of him as if it doesn't exist. But I think in Montana, your state legislature has talked about the North American Union. Texas has had several votes about the corridor. They just call it a different name. They call it the Trans-Texas Corridor. But
it comes right through here. So.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's going to go through Texas, I guess, all the way up to Montana. So it's a real thing. And when you talk about it, the thing you just have to be aware of is that if you talk about it like it's a conspiracy, they'll paint you as a nut. It's not a conspiracy. They're out in the open about it. I saw the YouTube of Vincente Fox talking about the Amero.
Yeah,
so it's not a secret. Now, it may not be able to tomorrow, but it took them 20 or 30 years to get the euro. So, and they had to push people shoving and, kicking and screaming into the euro. And but I guarantee it is one of their long-term goals to have, one sort of borderless mass continent.
Has there been any audit of the gold since we've gone off the gold standard?
No,
where it's gone?
That was one of. My dad was appointed to a gold commission in 1984, I think, by Reagan. And the majority voted against it, but the minority, my dad was a minority, wrote a book called The Case for Gold. And in that, one of their propositions was, I think, to audit and count and see if the gold was in Fort Knox.
Sure.
And then another thing was to audit the Fed and bring more sunlight on the Fed, things like that. So that did come out of that, but they were the minority, so it didn't happen. But he still brings those things up and gets a vote. Like getting out of the UN, he gets about 80 or 90 votes for getting out of the UN now, and brings publicity to that. So we need more people to be elected. I mean, y'all need to, try to get Roger Koopman or somebody good to run for Congress down here and or over here and get some help for him. I mean, there's probably only about 20 to 25 decent congressmen. And that's with a wide open definition of what decent is, The vast majority of the Republicans vote for all the deficit spending. They vote for every new federal project that comes down the line. So you're not getting what you think you're getting when you vote for a Republican congressman a lot of times.
I got one last question. Why doesn't your dad believe in the sort of notion of that 9/11 was an inside job? And has he seen Loose Change, Final Cut, anything like that?
I don't know that much about it. I mean, I don't know enough to respond for him on that, and I don't know about the movie that you're talking about.
Check it out.
All right.
First off, I just want to say that I woke up at 6 o'clock this morning, which is kind of a rarity for me, and we drove over from Missoula, so you speak. So I'm glad I think one of the biggest misconceptions or deceptions facing this country and a lot of people just really don't know about is the Federal Reserve. I don't think people realize it's a private institution. It's not in any way federal. And it's just kind of a secretive organization, and they really control the wealth of this country. And I want to know maybe why you think a lot of people don't know this, and why a lot of congressmen don't know this. And I also wanted to ask you how your father feels about the Federal Reserve and what he might do to bring about awareness on the subject and maybe remedy the situation.
I think it's basically an education problem, that no one's being taught about it in high school, no one's being taught about it in college. There are some economists, and I think that's been one of the success of the last 20 years, is there have become more free market economists who do talk about the Federal Reserve, and there have been more of those coming into the universities, but there still is a dearth of that. With regard to the Federal Reserve, my dad's always introducing legislation, both to audit the Federal Reserve, to make their meetings open. These are sort of stepwise things that you can try to do to shed light and to shine light on what the Federal Reserve is doing. So he is always promoting these, and he continues to promote these in Congress and tries to force votes on these. But it is an uphill battle. But you'll see, and that's the one great thing you get in these debates, is if he can stay in the debates, is he mentions the Federal Reserve, he mentions monetary policy and how it's interconnected with the entire marketplace. Money is the most important part. It's half of every transaction. That we need to realize that debasing the currency or making the money worth less it affects everybody throughout the country, and it's related to deficits. They're all tied in together. And so, yeah, he does talk about it, and I think he will continue to.
Why don't you think the other candidates, it seems like they go out of their way to avoid talking about it? Do they benefit from it in any way?
No, I think they don't. They either don't understand it. I think it's just most of it. I think most of the other candidates have sort of a high school education with regard to economics, and they don't understand the issue, and they think it's so simple as we're having trouble, let's lower the interest rate 0.5 point, and the troubles will go away. They don't understand the long-term repercussions of what happens when you make the interest rate fall below whatever the market would have determined. And they see only the short run. You know, there's a famous John Maynard Keynes quote. It's, you know, what will happen in the long run? He said, well, in the long run, we'll all be dead. You know, they don't care about the long run. They care about next week and what the stock market will do tomorrow. In the long run, we'll all be dead. So they don't really care about the, you know, what happens.
Well, I call my friend, he's like, I'll be there. And it's like, man, I woke up at 6 o'clock. Me, wake up at 6 o'clock, drive like 200 miles, just come see this guy speak. And I think he can get out of bed.